It's been an extremely heavy week for me personally when it comes to the very unfortunate assassination of Charlie Kirk. He was same age as me, wife, young kids, lever, and he was just absolutely brilliant with the heart of God. And that was something that really, really struck me, like maybe the most impactful non-family death that I've ever experienced. Right now, the mode that I'm in, I think the thing that I'm really trying to have God help me with is dealing with the aftermath of his death and seeing the reaction from a lot of people from around the world, and that has brought an anger inside of me that I'm not really used to carrying around.
Welcome into the One Big Thing podcast. Steve Campbell with my buddy Eric Chiofalo today. Eric, I have known for years, from the sidelines. If you guys have been trekking with my journey, the Dallas Cowboys are a fan favorite of mine because of my father. Growing up in my family, the youngest of three sons, it was the only thing ever on TV in the fall. And in a weird way, what became fandom truthfully became an emotional connection to my dad. It was something that brought us together. And so the Cowboys, whether they win or lose, have always been near and dear to my heart. And I'm a human being just like you. When you're a fan of a sport or you want more resources, you go find people that speak about it. And Eric is one of the best, working for 105.3 The Fan. And I had Zach Woldchuk, a colleague of his, and they have a little bit of history in the past. And I always think about who to bring on. And so because Eric had experienced Zach's episode, he was kind enough and willing enough to join me on this podcast. And I'm going to give him an opportunity here at the beginning to introduce himself. But for friends of Eric, the one big thing is really my heart in a way for me to truthfully encourage myself to help 30 and 40-year-olds that are navigating challenging seasons, bringing guests on to not share you the fluff, just be better, get in early, leave late, but like you're dealing with hard things. And how can we, through Eric's story today and the things he's learning, help you have a couple of things that might make you realize, one, you're not alone, the things you're going through, everyone else is, but also give you maybe some practical things that can help you move the ball forward. So I've had people from the NFL, entertainers, musicians, just the people God's graced me with. And Eric was kind enough to come on the show. But Eric, for those that don't know you, what is a few things that you think would be helpful right at the beginning?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, first of all, Steve, I love what you're doing, man, and super honored to be on the program today. And I'm 31 years old. I'm married with three kids, three daughters, 5, 4, and 2.5 years old. So we're in the throes of the early parenting stages, and it is absolutely a lot of fun. So that first and foremost, I am a Christian, and I host a radio show here in Dallas, talking sports and just trying to have a good time from that standpoint. But yeah, trying to navigate the husband duties, the fatherly duties, the work duties, and at the same time being a man of God. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. And I think the amazing thing about life in 2025 and technology and all of that is people that were once maybe unreachable, 10, 15 years ago, if I'd seen you on TV, the thought would have never came to mind of, hey, let's have a conversation at some point. We're in different parts of the country. You don't know me, I don't know you. But with the advent of technology and people having platforms where they're promoting their work, people are reachable. And what's been incredible to me is as people have been put on my heart and I've sent them a message or, tried to reach out, they've been open to, podcasting is the one platform where people are like, consider me, like I want to tell my story. And so it's been very cool that, 10 years ago, you and I may not have known each other, but now here we are. Somebody is a fan of your work, but also recognizing that you are a real human being, that when the radio turns off, you go home to 3 little girls and your wife, and you're trying to navigate being a human being just like all of us. But you also have this dual hat that you have to wear of also representing a company and speaking about teams that you're paid to cover and those kind of things. So I think just the simple fact of you sharing that faith is near and dear to your heart. It resonates with a lot of us that are trying to figure out, especially in light of things happening across the world, who am I? Why am I here? What am I called to do? And so, as I kind of preface to you at the beginning of the show is called The One Big Thing because we want to try to share something, right, that a guest can say, even if I don't know Eric, this is the one thing I left with. So, Eric Chiofalo, if I'd ask you, what is your one big thing? What would you want a listener to kind of walk away the things you're trying to navigate?
I love it. Okay, so I mean, I'll get super specific on where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been an extremely heavy week for me personally when it comes to the very unfortunate assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've obviously all felt it in different ways. But he was a guy that I really appreciated, identified with. He was same age as me, wife, young kids, believer, and he was just absolutely brilliant with a heart of God. And so I love consuming his content, and that was something that really struck me, like maybe the most impactful non family death that I've ever experienced. I mean, I'm only 31 years old, so I haven't been a part of a ton of, big time unfortunate deaths necessarily throughout my life, but like for this one has just been absolutely gut-wrenching for me. And so, I mean, there's plenty of things that I'm trying to navigate, obviously, as we all are, but like right now the mode that I'm in, I think the thing that I'm really trying to have God help me with is dealing with the aftermath of his death, and seeing the reaction from a lot of people from around the world that are completely disrespecting him and what he stood for, and that has brought an anger inside of me that I'm not really used to carrying around. And it's funny because right now I'm in the middle of a Bible study. Shout out to Coaches Outreach, by the way, and it is with a local high school here in Keller, Fossil Ridge High School. And I was given the opportunity a couple years ago to basically lead the Bible study, and I will be the first to raise my hand and say, like, I'm super unqualified for that. I am not the biggest theologian in the world, but it was something that God opened a door for me, and I was like, "Hey, this would be just as great for me and my heart as it would be for the coaches that I get to do it with." And we're doing a study on some of the minor prophets from the Old Testament, and they kicked off with the story of Jonah, and it's so interesting to me the way Jonah felt about the Ninevites and how God is calling him to go to Nineveh and preach the gospel, send them God's message of, hey, you guys need to repent. This was a super violent, super sinful uh, particular city. And Jonah, not only fearing for his own life, that was part of it, but of course we all know the story of he's basically running away from God, and God's like, hey, that's not really going to work. Part of the reason why he was running from God is because not only was he fearful of his own life going into a violent place like that, preaching the word of God and what that could do to him, right? But also he had this sort of self-righteous and borderline hateful nature towards Nineveh and those people, saying like, hey, they don't deserve your forgiveness, Lord. They don't deserve your mercy. They should be destroyed. And I didn't really identify with it early on. Like, that's not a feeling that I generally have. But now here I am feeling the exact same way that Jonah felt about Nineveh, about all these people that are dancing in celebration for the death of Charlie Kirk. And so for the last 5 or 6 days, that has been something that I have really had to pray about and ask God to, hey, please take this anger and this hatred out of my heart, because I don't want them, there's a part of me that's like, man, I want them to have to suffer for what it is that they're doing right now. And here I am being just as hateful as they are in a different way. They're celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and it's bringing out a hate in me. And so it's remembering, hey, I'm just as lowly as these people. I have the same amount of hate in my heart, unfortunately, as these people do. So who am I to condemn them when I'm sitting here and I want the worst possible things to happen to them? And and that's something that I am absolutely ashamed of. And I'm like, okay, now this is sort of a new challenge that God has placed on me of like, hey, check yourself because you ain't that awesome either. And just as much hate as those people can have, you can too. And so it's still about God's grace and our repentance. If we're willing to, hey, Lord, I'm sorry for that, he will grant you that forgiveness, and he will welcome you with open arms into the kingdom of heaven. And right now that is, and it's very specific to this time, but that is probably my biggest current struggle at the moment, Steve.
I mean, I just appreciate the depth that you shared, and we are all reactive to the plot twists that we can never see coming, right? And so Charlie Kirk's death, no one saw it coming, and then we all had to deal with it. And I think there's layers to it. I think there's been so many sad situations over the last 10, 15 years of death, school shootings, people elected positions, hearing about them being killed. And this one hit different for me too. And I think the reason that it hit different, and it doesn't take away the fact that any death is senseless, but the fact that when you can identify with somebody because there's elements to your story that match their story, you're 31, he's 31, you're a dad, you're married, you have kids. There's a lot of things that line up. You're a man of faith. I think it was the same thing for me. I mean, I have 4 children under 10 years old. But I also I didn't want to, but I took to Twitter when the news broke that Charlie Kirk had been shot just to get information. And the first thing I saw was this wide angle lens shot of like him, kind of moving. And I was like, oh gosh, man, I pray he's okay. And I re-swiped Twitter to see what was going on. And then seconds later, I saw from 5 feet away what actually happened. And I was like, please tell me that's AI. Like, that is awful what I just saw.
I know.
And then I realized like this like PTSD that hit me all of a sudden, like, dude, I literally just saw a person that I've never met, but I appreciated, literally be shot on live television. I can't go back to just what I was doing. Like, I need to decompress what I'm seeing. And then you had my wife, Stephanie, sitting right next to me, and she feels the same thing. And it's like, man, you got a guy that was, standing up for his faith, never hurt anybody physically, debated, spoke truth, believed, and had convictions, and his life was taken for it. But I think because many of us that didn't want to, saw it physically with our eyes, it wrecked us in a way that I think what's crazy is even with me, when you podcast, I have episodes in advance ready to go, but I know now, just being obedient to the Lord, that I have to push this one up to be the next one, right? Because if this comes out in November, December, we're all human beings, and the farther you get away from a feeling, the harder it is to bring people back. So I think just the fact that what I have been wrestling in with what you did is Lord, what do I do with the fact that this has hit me in a way that it convicts me about my own walk with you? Because I'm always trying to tote the line, even with this show, that I want it to be a show that reaches as many people as possible, because they could be one conversation from real life change. And so even when we get into things of Jesus, I'm still, as the host, trying to navigate, like, let Eric speak his piece, but then always bring it back to like, hey, if you don't agree, like, don't tune out. But there's something that has shifted now in me where it's like, not like no more, but Lord, there's too much at stake, because what his life revealed is that life is so fleeting. Even the video images I saw leading up to his pulling up in the car at Utah, he had no sense of what was about to happen.
Right.
But if you listen now, I think the sweet thing that's happened in light of his death, which is awful, is the amount of footage that people are sharing on social media of the conversations he had on campuses and in churches that many of us were never privy towards, because so much of his content was the clickbaity, the intense things, going back and forth with some of a different viewpoint. But I've seen so many images of him speaking to people in such gracious ways, conversations he's had, the responses of his wife, Erica, which that woman's strength is insane. So I think you're absolutely, I love the fact that we can actually bring this to the forefront and have a conversation as two men, that we are trying to navigate the fact that we have a dual nature of, we're a spiritual person that is constantly trying to reflect Christ in everything that we do, but we're also a human being that has emotions and struggles and dealings. And so I think it's been hard for all of us to navigate the fact of how polarizing the world seems to be, in a way that I maybe it's just experience and I've gotten older, but 20 years ago, it just didn't seem like you could really tell the difference between individuals that voted on one side of the aisle. And now there is such a dividing line that you can see where people are. And I think we're all trying to navigate our role as Christians, but also American citizens, and what I stand for. So, I mean, as you kind of work through this, you're in Bible study, right? So you're obviously building community with other men. And so you're seeking these things together. But as you, Eric, wrestle with this, and in light of the fact that you're a media figure, what else has helped you? I mean, how are you, is it daily devotions? What are you doing as you kind of work through these feelings that I think we're all still kind of working through?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I'm blessed to have a really solid community of men in my life, starting with my own father, my brothers, family members, friends that we can sort of bounce ideas off of. Men that are after the same thing, which is trying to please God and wrestling with the struggles that we have. So, I mean, I would say that has been huge. And then for me, yeah, being in the Bible study, like having being in the middle of the Jonah study while this was taking place was like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing the connection point here. And that's just, I mean, that's God working in His own sort of mysterious ways that you can never really get ahead of until boom, it hits you right over the face. And then for me, I mean, prayer time is the main thing. I need to get to a point where I'm like doing the journaling and things like that. That's something that I need to try and incorporate a little bit more, because I I know so many people that talk about how good that can be for you. But for me, it's really just the prayer time, and talking with God, and being honest with Him. And amidst the prayers, God knows exactly how we feel. It's like Jonah trying to run away from God. Like, you can't do that. So just being super open and honest in the prayers of like, Lord, this is what I'm struggling with right now. And please, please, please help me with this. It's like, it's the ultimate therapist, right? And having that dialogue with Him. And of course, that's what God wants. God knows we're not perfect. God knows we have struggles. He knows exactly what they are. He knows what they are before we even know that we have them. And so just sort of venting that out and asking Him to cleanse you of these things, and guide you through a very, very challenging time for me. And having that personal relationship with God is not something that I grew up having. I grew up in a Christian home, but it was never really something that I latched on to. For me, I was just, growing up through middle school, high school, college. It was just living for myself and sinning with really no regard for the wreckage and the damage that it does, not only to me, but everybody around me, right? Like, our sin is not just affecting us, it affects everything around us. And so once I finally gave my life to Christ, 25 years old, 25, 26, um, I started to, okay, let me fully surrender myself to you, Lord, and let me really try and develop this personal relationship with you, which is exactly what He wants. So, talking with good men, and then obviously just having my prayer time, being in the Word as much as I can. Those are really the main things for me right now.
Hey everyone, Steve Campbell. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If it's made an impact on you, I would love to take a moment to ask you to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. But I would also love for you to leave a 5-star rating and review. Your ratings and review help other listeners know that this show is worth their time. So thank you so much for tuning into The One Big Thing, and let's enjoy the rest of the episode. Yeah, and I know you and I had spoke a little bit before we came on that your world is a little bit different, right? Because you're on radio every day, and people, you're there to talk about sports franchises, and so you're even trying to navigate these own emotional struggles and the fact that you're a human being, right? Just like all of us, and taking in the world. And I think sometimes people look at influencers and people in the media like they're just disconnected from the world, but you are trying to navigate all of this. And I think what one of the things we had talked about around sin at the beginning was, I have moments where I look at other influencers and I look at what I'm doing and I sometimes feel discouraged, right? That you wish you were doing more, reaching more people, had a bigger platform, and that exists and you have to wrestle with that. But with the whole Charlie Kirk situation, there's been a sadness of I should be doing more as I've watched his videos. And it's not I feel worse. There's been this like holy fire lit inside of me that what has been so encouraging is it feels like, first of all, my Instagram algorithm got reset. Prior to Charlie Kirk's death, it was a lot of random things and things that truthfully didn't feed my soul. But since he has obviously passed, my algorithm, every other video is either a video of him, which I've taken the time to listen to and really just trying to understand and appreciate the work that he was doing in places where he was not welcomed or appreciated. And to me, it's like boldness. But then two, the outcry of influencers that are taking to social media to say, look, this has wrecked me. If you want to unfollow me, I get it. But I want you to know I love Jesus. So you see part of like the celebrity coming out, but then also just the videos of people taking pictures of their Bible and saying, I'm going to church for the first time. Or, I need to get back to following Jesus because I may not have agreed with Charlie, but something has stirred inside of me. So I have experienced just questions to myself of, God, your hand on my life is not for selfish ambition and for me to gain things. It's you've given me gifts to connect with people in the world. And I think right now there is a moment that we all have that people that are coming to Jesus would say, I wish someone had told me sooner what I could have experienced. And so it wasn't just a mantle for Charlie Kirk or Turning Point or whoever to carry, but it's for all of us that truthfully follow the Lord, men and women, to say, when is the last time you got out of your own way to share Christ with somebody else? And I think we toe the line of not wanting to jeopardize our careers, to be culturally relevant, to not speak to things that maybe would be upsetting. But something has happened in the midst of all of this where it's not, belittling people or, hammering them with the gospel, but it's to try to, in many ways, reflect what Charlie was doing, which is to debate well and to speak your mind, but also, and I'll let you go to this. This is how my brain works. I'm sorry for rambling a little bit. I think what's also convicted me is not just how little I've actually shared Jesus with people in like a very real and intentional way, but also how I need to get better about reading and understanding US history and things that I don't understand. Because what his videos have revealed to me is there was a depth of wisdom that guy had that could speak to so many things factually that outside of, like you said, you're no theologian, there's a level I understand, but now I just feel this conviction to like, man, Lord, I really need to not just understand the spiritual things, but I also really, as a dad and as a husband and US citizen, I want to understand the natural things so that if I ever find myself in conversations, I know how to carry them. So even for you, coming back to your role in media, some of the things that you had talked about as you wrestle with this, which is just like the fact that you're on camera and you have a persona, but then you're also Eric who has to go home to your, wife and your girls. So what has been the struggle? What has been the balance? How have you worked through, things you've said on air versus driving home? And that was a little bit of what you had talked about before coming on.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things I just want to mention here too is, everything that you're discussing and how your algorithm has changed and the different type of conviction that you have in your own heart right now, and seeing all of his videos maybe from years ago or months ago that are resurfacing, and what it's doing. It's almost like it has amplified his voice, right? Like somebody is trying to take him out to end his voice, and all it really has done is amplify it. And that is the way God uses terrible, evil things for good, right? And so I just want to sort of acknowledge that. But when it comes to me personally, yeah, this is more of like a big picture one thing, of like something that is a daily thing that for years I've had to, especially once I gave my life to Christ, because I started like gearing my career towards doing radio whenever I was 19 years old. So from 19 to roughly 26 years old, I started doing podcasts with Walchuk, who, like you mentioned, was on your show a while back, and then doing the radio show and getting in there and getting to be on air and things like that. So from 19 to 26, I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. I'm just like, I'm trying to be the most entertaining, uh, funniest host out there, right? And so there's really no regard for what's coming out of my mouth. And it was kind of an easier way to do the job, because you don't have that feeling of, oh, I still need to be honoring God, right? And then obviously things change. You give your life to Christ, and now it's like, okay, now how is it supposed to look now that I'm trying to honor God while still trying to be the funniest, most entertaining host out there? And that has been a huge struggle for me. I can't tell you how many times I've driven home going, man, I shouldn't have said that. Man, I shouldn't have made that joke right there. Yeah, it was funny. And it was a good, like, sort of earthly thing, worldly thing, but that was not honoring God. And to this day, I still struggle with that. I would like to think I've gotten a little bit better, but I'm still it's still a struggle for me, trying to honor God while at the same time do the best job possible on the radio. So, yeah, I mean, that is just something that goes back to talking with God about it, repenting for things that I will say sometimes that I'm like, I'd like to have that back. Because I mean, when you're doing radio, it's like, this is not a scripted thing. Like, you don't know what's going to come up. You don't know what's about to pop up, and then boom, you have a joke. And I've definitely gotten better. I've eaten more jokes over the last few years than I ever did when I first started. But that's just something that I'm continuing to work toward, and I have not perfected it at all. But that is definitely something that is on my heart every single day. Lord, help me to honor you as I do this show. And if I trip and fall, please let me have the self-awareness to stand back up, dust myself off, repent for the stupid thing that I just said. And please, God, help me to be better next segment or next show, whatever it is.
Well, and I love the transparency, because I will be completely honest with you that I was a huge fan of The Office and Michael Scott. And one of my best gifts was knowing when to appropriately use That's What She Said. And I found myself in hot water in many conversations where it wasn't God honoring. It was perfect timing and it was a great punchline.
Right.
But I realized that what was getting laughs was actually not God's best. And so one of the things that I've had to work through in my Christian walk is just that, God, you've given me a gift for humor and for encouraging people, but that has gotten me in trouble in the past. And I see it now in my one son, who tries to be the funny guy all the time. But I think that's what you are hitting on right now, is kind of what I'm experiencing in the circles that I kind of run with, because you definitely surround yourself with like-minded people. And I'm at a stage in my life where it's not, the people in my life aren't, should I do meth? Should I do cocaine? Should I go out and do something illegal? It's, hey, there's a level of spirituality and holiness that in the marketplace I'm trying to walk out. And there are small things that I continue to do that I don't want to do. And this is what the Apostle Paul talked about. And we'll never know this because we're just watching you on a YouTube Zoom cam and you're just sitting there. But in your head, you're trying to navigate being Eric and, being a follower of Christ while on air. And we don't know when you're eating the joke, but you do. But I just appreciate the fact that you are humble enough to admit that this is a journey that you're trying to walk out, because even though it might be a laugh on air and it might make you more popular with listeners, in your heart the conviction you'll carry when you get alone with the Lord. And there's just this level of disappointment that, for me personally, Eric, doesn't come from him, but it's something I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just like, Lord, I'm sorry. And so I think for all of us in the marketplace, it raises a great point to what are the things that you are doing that may be actually limiting or separating God's impact on your workforce. And they might not be overtly sinful or egregious, but you know there's small things in small ways, the way you write, the way you text, something you say, like what I said, that might be causing a separation. Whereas what would it look like if you carried a level of righteousness with you that was inviting? And could you still be funny in the sake of trying to follow Jesus? So I even just appreciate you walking through that. And I mean, I think what would be cool too, and we didn't talk about this, but within your world, because you are such a prevalent person who's on social media and you're on the radio, have there been opportunities for you to interact with fans of the show in meaningful ways, or ways that you've been able to connect rather than one to many as a host, but just kind of one to one? If doors like that opened up for you over the years?
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the fun things that has taken place a little bit, whether it be somebody sending you a message, or somebody when we're doing live remote shows out somewhere in the community, and someone coming in and just saying, maybe it's a word of encouragement, or maybe it's just, hey, I have the same struggle as you do, kind of identifying with, as they've gotten to know me a little bit more, and me trying to share a little bit more of my personal stuff on the air. There's definitely been some really fun interactions with just individuals that kind of keep you going, and really fill up your cup. Like, okay, that was a good thing. I'm glad that I talked about it, whatever type of hard conversation it was, or whatever type of opinion it was that maybe isn't totally sports related. It's a little bit more outside of that, and it does have impacts on people, and oftentimes it's in a positive way, so that's good. I've definitely gotten DMs of people that are not happy with whatever opinions I have shared or whatever. But yes, that is something that has been pretty cool, and I'm super appreciative of having that opportunity, and just the reminder of the impact that you can have, even if it's just on one individual, one thing you said. It can absolutely make a difference.
Yeah, and I had mentioned to you right before the recording that I just appreciated the reshares and the things I was seeing from you, and we had never really had the chance to have a meaningful conversation like this. But watching you from afar and seeing in your world that you were working through the whole Charlie Kirk situation just humanized you in a way. I mean, the one thing that you had talked about earlier was just your own walk as a husband and as a dad. Has there been anything else? I mean, outside of just, trying to be mindful of what you say on air, has there been anything else that the Holy Spirit's just kind of been pointing a finger on in your life that you're like, man, this is something I'm just trying to work through in light of kind of everything I'm experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say when it comes to being a husband, when it comes to being a father, just being as loving as I possibly can be, and trying to sort of die to self as much as possible. Nothing will sort of amplify your own selfishness like getting married, one, or really becoming a Christian. And you start to realize, oh wow, I'm a heck of a lot more selfish than I thought I was. Then you get married, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm even more selfish than I thought I was. Then you start to have kids, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm even more selfish than I thought I was. And so I would say that's one of the big things for sure. Like, realizing over the course of however many years now, wow, Eric, you are a heck of a lot more selfish than you ever gave yourself credit for. And so trying to, on a daily basis, be the servant as the husband, be the servant as the father, that is something that in some ways comes naturally, but in a lot of other ways, you have to be very intentional about reminding yourself, hey, it ain't about you. It ain't about you. And I would say that's one that has definitely struck me over the last 5, 6 years.
I think for those that may not have grown up in church or in the Bible, where the word says to love your wife like Christ loved the church and to lay down your life for her. I think one of the videos that really got me in the midst of this whole Charlie Kirk situation was his wife Erica saying that Charlie was the best husband. that he never raised his voice, that he never spoke down to her. And, you can think about your own marriage or people in your circle and how the divorce rate amongst even 30 and 40-year-olds is rampant in a way that, marriage is extremely difficult. And when you understand your own selfishness, but the fact that you have needs, I truthfully don't know how people without the Lord do it, because I have Jesus and I struggle immensely with, why did I say that way? Or like parenting with my kids. And I've talked about that on multiple episodes where I have failed so many times as a father in a way that I would have never imagined prior to being married. And it grips you in a way of, why did I raise my voice? Why did I do that? Why did I discipline them that hard or get back in there? And I think that's part of, for me, trying to navigate how quickly I respond to my own disappointment, and and maybe you have ways that you do it, but just, if you have a fight or a miscommunication with your spouse, the Bible says to die to yourself. So after that happens and you're dealing with the emotions as a human, right? You're trying to decompress. How quickly can you get out of feeling bad for yourself or the situation and get back to having a conversation or get back to serving? Even same thing with being a parent. When you blow it, when you yell, when you spank too hard, whatever it is that you do that you just don't, you're just not present with your kids. It's very easy for the enemy, I think, to want to discourage you to just go sit on your phone and scroll and do whatever, and go be in isolation. But I've really struggled with, Lord, help me to bounce back faster. If I do something and I screw up, just help me come back to the table and love them. So has there been anything either for you personally, like in marriage or with three girls, which is that there's a lot there, right? Has there been anything in marriage or with your three girls that, I don't know, that you've just a mindset or a way of bouncing back or something? Is there anything that you do that's really kind of helped you maybe not be the absolute best dad, but just take one little step forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is having that consistent prayer time and Bible time and having that connection with God on a daily basis so that you're never really losing sight of what we're called to do. And so that helps me on the front end try not to, whatever it is, fly off the handle, be disrespectful, raise my voice, that kind of thing. Um, that is probably the main thing when it comes to how I'm trying to approach it. And if I get away from prayer time, if I get away from being in the Word, it's amazing how quickly you can start to sort of get back into your old ways or whatever it may be. So yeah, that's a big one. And then, like you mentioned, the recovery aspect of it. Hey, am I humble enough to admit, hey, I screwed that up? Let me go tell my daughter right now, hey, daddy didn't handle that the right way. And I'm very sorry for that. And I love you. Same thing with my wife, and being quick to forgive her. If she, if she's, a little bit out of whack, and we're all, every day, the ebbs and flows of a day, it can get away from you real quick. So I think when I'm locked into to prayer time, Bible stuff, it arms me with sort of the patience that I need, to parent, the patience that I got to have with my wife on certain things, and then when I drop the ball, being willing to admit, not the next day, not at a later date, like as soon as possible. Hey, you're right. Let me put my hand up. I screwed that up. I'm sorry about that. Let me try and let me end this sort of negative energy that we have right now, and let me just put my hand up. That's on me, and how can we move forward? And it's amazing how quickly, I mean, kids don't want to live in that negativity, right? Kids can't wait to forgive you. They're like, oh my gosh, yes, like you're coming back in here and you're soft, and you're being apologetic, and you're giving me a hug, and you're reinforcing that love that you have for me. Kids, man, they can snap back into, all right, beautiful. Let's keep this train moving very quickly. And so that's something that I've really appreciated, and I've seen the difference that it makes, and how, instead of just sort of ruining an entire afternoon, this one moment here can be done quickly. Or, vice versa. Your kids do something, I handle it the right way, but now I'm frustrated with the whatever it was they just did. Can I get into a heart posture of forgiveness right now so that this doesn't just sit here and fester inside me. So that's what I would say about that.
And I think that's great because you and I have a mantle as a husband and as a father, that I love the fact that you mentioned it starts in prayer time. For me, for those that, prayer isn't a part of your life, it needs to be, because it's in those quiet moments in the morning, that I don't even know what's going to come, but I can trust the Lord that you'll lead and guide me and give me wisdom. It's when hours later, days later, that I screw it up, the Lord reminds me of the things we prayed about. So I just love the fact that you're, open and honest, that as husbands, as dads, we can mess it up, but it's how quickly we can forgive. And I know the one thing that has helped me tremendously is just when things like that happen, just asking the Lord, show me in this situation what I need to address or what I need to deal with, because it's not always the other person and missed expectations from them. Many times it's we don't even understand the way that we're reacting or the things that we're saying. And, as we bring this episode to a close, because you had kind of started with it, right? You are somebody who is living and experiencing life, that there are people that are different from you. I think, trying to forgive family, trying to forgive your wife and kids, that's where it starts in the home. But is there anything too that as you've worked through part of this anger, part of what you're dealing with, that has helped you just kind of as you go out and you deal with people, or you deal with fans of the show, or people that might see the world differently? Is there anything that you've been just praying through or working on, of just how do you convert this anger to the fact of humanizing people and kind of working through that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I came across, it was my wife is doing a separate Bible study with some ladies, and she shared this with me. It comes out of Ezekiel chapter 2, verses 1 through 8. I don't know if I'll read all of them, but it says this. It says, Son of man, I am sending you to the house of Israel, to rebellious nations who have rebelled against me. Both they and their fathers have revolted against me to this very day. The people to whom I am sending you are obstinate and hard-hearted, and you must say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. And as for them, whether they listen or not, for they are a rebellious house, they will know that a prophet has been among them. But you, son of man, do not fear them, and do not fear their words, even though briars and thorns surround you, and you live among scorpions. Do not fear their words, and do not be afraid of the looks they give you, for they are a rebellious house. You must speak my words to them, whether they listen or not, for they are rebellious. As for you, son of man, listen to what I'm saying to you. Do not rebel like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat what I am giving you. And that was something that, especially in this time right now, and trying to deal with my emotions towards other people, God's like, hey, I'm the one that will give them the ultimate judgment. All you can do is remind them of who God is and what he stands for, and living that out with your actions and your words. And don't get into the same pit of rebellion as them. Don't allow their hate to fuel your hate. And so there's been a handful of verses, the Jonah thing, that right there, stuff like that has really resonated with me. And I'm like, okay, let me meditate on this, and God help me to be that type of person.
Well, and I think the one thing that you had just touched on too, the last thing as we bring this to a close, is the one thing I really appreciated about Charlie Kirk is even if you didn't agree with him, you knew where he stood. And it's really made me self-reflect on the fact of, even if I'm out there making a podcast or talking with people, they may not agree with what I believe in, but do they know to come to me when, they need questions about Jesus? And if I'm not making the type of media, or I'm not living my life out there enough to say, this is what I believe, I want people, when they're experiencing hard times, to say, hey, who do we know that we can go to? And we want Steve to be a person because we know where he stands and what he believes. And so I would just say, for anybody that's out there today, take this time, take this moment. I'm always appreciative that I never know where conversations are going to go, but it sounds like this is the conversation that you and I, Eric, needed to have today. And I think it's going to help a lot of people. So as always, appreciate you guys stopping by the One Big Thing podcast. I hope that Eric's transparency and honesty of the fact that he is trying to wrestle with things that we don't quite understand. It's what you do with that, how quickly you bounce back, and what you do with what God's called you to do is where breakthrough is going to happen. Eric Chiofalo, thank you for being my guest on the One Big Thing podcast.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, thanks for stopping by the One Big Thing podcast. I appreciate you even listening to the entire episode and trekking along with us. I hope that it inspired you to move the ball forward in your life. And, I'd love to stay connected with you. One way that we can do that is by subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you head over to YouTube and go to Steve Campbell PR, that's Steve Campbell PR, you can hit that subscribe button. That's going to give you access to all the long form videos that I make, but also some of just the daily encouragement content that I like to push towards followers of the YouTube channel to really help you realize that you're not alone. And as I've said, as a dad, as a husband of four, my passion is inspiring people like you that are tuning into this journey called life so that you can maximize the potential that's God given to you. So thank you for stopping by the One Big Thing podcast. I hope you'll join the community and be a part of this with me. Get in touch if I can ever be in help. Information's in the show notes. But as always, thanks for being my guest on the One Big Thing podcast.